I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood two times in the theater. I really wanted to see it, but I don't really recall what my expectations exactly were. Quentin Tarantino is very hit or miss for me. I really don't like his early movies. I think that he has this sort of way of approaching characters and consequently, I assume, a way of thinking about humanity that I just don't agree with. Pulp Fiction is a movie that basically says, here are a bunch of people. They're a bunch of motherfuckers, is probably how QT would put it himself. And they did this one thing, and then, of course, we flash back and forward, so the story goes, and then earlier they did this thing, and then later they did this thing, and yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, they're all still a bunch of motherfuckers, and they always will be. And I just don't think that's any way to think about people. It's no good way to think about people. And so I really don't like his early movies because I think they all have that attitude. And I think that's actually what other people like about it. But it's just not for me. I prefer a certain level of meaningfulness in movies. Otherwise, the whole thing feels like it's just a waste of time, especially when they're as long as Tarantino's movies tend to be. And the other thing is that the violence is so infamously fetishized, Kill Bill, for example, that it's uncomfortable. And again, I'm aware that this is something that other people really like about Tarantino's movies. But I think the trick was always figuring out who to aim the violence at. I'm not a prude about violence in movies. I don't have a problem with that per se. It's just who is the violence toward and what lens are we viewing it through? Those two kind of combine to determine whether the violence is acceptable or not on a moral level. In Kill Bill, for example, I don't see anything morally upright about the violence in that. But more importantly, the movie doesn't care. The movie's just showing the violence because it is reveling in it. But like around the time of Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, okay, well now we're aiming the violence at Nazis and slavers, right? So now all of a sudden it's this glorious rewriting of history that's happening, and that's very cathartic and a lot of fun, I think, for everybody. So I don't really have a problem with his newer movies, and in fact, I vastly prefer them. But anyway, I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I went with my dad the first time, and my dad doesn't usually go to the theater with me to see movies. I guess he had nothing to do that day. But I remember sitting through the whole 2 hours and 49 minutes of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood just having a fucking blast. And during the end, where they're demolishing Charles Manson's hippie squad, and Rick Dalton goes into the work shed and walks back out with the flamethrower, and that music kicks in. I remember my dad clapping and laughing simultaneously, which he had probably done at some point with some other movie, but I can't for the life of me remember when he would have done that. And I was kind of shocked, actually, to see him enjoying a movie this way. And then we went again with my mom and my brothers the next weekend. Same reaction from all of them. Not at that exact moment necessarily, but at different points in the movie. And that was so validating because, I mean, my family likes movies. And we've always, I think, used movies to sort of relate to and communicate with each other. It was just a natural way of things. Like my brothers and I can carry on entire conversations just quoting movies that we watched all the time as kids. And that was always just how we related to each other, because I guess we didn't have enough in common otherwise. But I never felt that anybody in my family liked movies the way that I did. Everybody else just wanted to be entertained. I was interested in the art of the thing. And so to see such a visceral reaction from my family, and for it to be this movie that managed to get that reaction, I mean, it was just such a great experience and so personal to me. Well, anyway, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of the only movies of Tarantino's that isn't like pornographic, at least not overall. Because, like I said, the violence is aimed at the right target and viewed in the right lens, and there's not even that much of it in this particular movie. It's so sentimental, it's so meaningful, because it's about, you know, how Tarantino grew up. It's about the movies that he loved and the movies that like his father figures loved and took him to see. And you can read all that in his book. But yeah, vastly prefer Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to his earlier movies. It's probably my favorite of his movies because of its own sentimental meaning within my life. It's not necessarily the best structure-wise. I think probably Inglourious or Django have a leg up on it as far as that goes, but it's still my favorite.